requirements was for me to also get cyber insurance. So make sure as you're thinking about bidding on, contracts or work, look and make sure that the legal and regulatory requirements, this may be something that may be mandatory, not necessarily something that's an additional insurance for you to have for your small business. But there's also things that you can think about if you are, have a business where you can't have a lot of downtime. The cyber insurance will also help if your business is interrupted due to things that are maybe not so outside of your control. And then also if there is things that are incidents that would require some IT forensics or public relations. As a small business owner, if you don't have these things within your staff or maybe, consultants that may be at your disposal, think about how this insurance can be leveraged as an additional resource to you in the event that something happens. Now, because we're living in a digital age where most of our transactions are online in some form of some capacity, we're all using email, we're using mobile devices. And our employees are using the same. The attacks that have been, running rapid over the last several years, it has not been just on large businesses. It's been on every type of business. So when you're thinking about that, do a cyber risk, assessment on your organization to see what type of risk that are involved in the type of business that you're providing to your customers, and think about the types of coverages that you may need. And these are just to name a few, but this is something to just give food for thought as you're thinking about or navigating what should I do in the event that something does happen, because it could cover financial losses from these incidents. It can also help with if there's an investigation that's needed. It can also help if there's a temporary shutdown of some sort that has caused maybe loss to you or to your customers. This may be an additional thing that you can use as a resource, and not looking at it as something that's an additional expense. Next slide. So as I talked about with the landscape in 2025, cyber attacks are evolving. They're targeting small business. We see different things on the news each and every day where, regardless of the size, something is happening, some type of attack. Some of the common threats that you've seen is phishing attacks. Phishing attacks is usually something that they send over email. It looks very similar in nature to maybe something that you're used to receiving, maybe from a customer. Sometimes they're very even crafty and sophisticated, and it may be from inside of your organization. It may have something where they're asking for something, usually for you to respond in a very timely manner. Like right now, send over your bank account information. Right now, send over. I had one that came in my email box the other day, and it was from it. When I looked at the first, the title of the message, it said, I need to update my direct deposit. And it looked like it was from one of my employees within my organization. And when I just clicked on the actual address bar, I saw that it came from an email address that was outside of my organization. But at first glance, it looked very close to an email that was within my organization. And the first thing I thought was, we were just in a staff meeting and this person never talked about updating their direct deposit information. So I knew right then that it was definitely a phishing attack. And that's just an example of things that you see probably every day. Ransomware, you see it with most of the bigger organizations where their data is stolen. And it also, not just that the data is also stolen, but it also can hijack different services that you may be able to provide to your customers. And then you see data breaches every day, where I know I've received them at least a couple of times a year from organizations that either I have been a consumer at, or even sometimes my doctor offices may send me something to say their information has been breached, and they're going to give me this credit repair or credit monitoring for a year. And more than likely, that is as a result of them doing one. We talked about having a cyber risk assessment that was done. They probably was recommended in that cyber risk assessment is to get some cyber risk insurance. And one of the other requirements, usually when you're obtaining cyber insurance, is that they want you to have some type of policies or procedures, incident response, or how you will be able to respond in a timely manner. So these are also things to consider once you're looking for quotes or looking for what type of insurance may work for you, what type of documents do I have in my organization that can support in the event that something happens, in the event that I will need to activate this policy, and also if I need to be able to utilize this policy. If you're using remote workers, if you're using cloud tools, all of these different things increase your exposure, because it's anything that's maybe outside of your organization. Those type of things also increase risk. They introduce new risk, right? And then think about the recovery costs that it can literally devastate a micro or small business, any business. Anytime that there is an unexpected expense or an expense that may prevent you from making additional revenue to your small business or to any size business, the recovery cost alone can be astronomical. I have seen in larger organizations where one data breach can cost nearly six figures to even clean up, or to have an investigation done, or to have even something as simple as the information. I've seen organizations where a data breach caused them to have to even reset all passwords. And think about in an organization where you have more than 100 employees, the time that it takes to even have an IT professional come in and do something as simple as reset passwords. These are the things that are costs that you don't want to have to spend, and costs that may be significant if you have a large breach that happened to your organization. Next slide. So what is typically not covered? I always get this too. So, okay, I did a risk assessment. I looked over my organization. I have all of my documents. I have my incident response. I have my policies. I have my procedures. I'm testing these policies and procedures every year. I've invested in some antivirus. I've invested in some malware protection. Okay, we have a strong password policy. Now we're even using multi-factor authentication. Like, I feel like my organization have, the basic cyber hygiene things in place. Now I'm looking at what will the cyber insurance, what additional things can the cyber insurance do for my small business? One thing it will not cover is pre-existing incidents. So if you want to try to get the insurance after something happens, more than likely they will not accept, will not activate that policy if it's something that's pre-existing. If you have things like poor cyber hygiene in your organization, if you don't have some of the things that we talked about earlier in place, they may also think that the risk of even, activating a policy for you, it may cause them additional costs. So remember, even cyber insurance, any type of insurance, it's a business as well. They're using a lot of different metrics, and now they're even introducing a lot of AI tools to be able to see if your organization has some of these things in place, and if you are someone that they want to insure. If you have maybe something dealing with a criminal investigation where there may be some additional, penalties or fines, is usually not typically covered. So keep that in mind as well. So if there's like a ransomware and the ransomware wants you to pay them, $1 million to get back your information, cyber insurance typically may not cover that. So keep that in mind as well. If there's something that you did, like maybe you're in a regulatory industry, like you're dealing with healthcare records, and someone in your organization or something happened that now there is a criminal investigation and there's some additional penalties and fines, the cyber insurance usually does not cover that as well. If it's losses due to war or terrorism, they may not cover that as well. So if you are thinking about cyber insurance, it's very important to read the fine print on what's covered, what's not covered. If you have a trusted insurance broker that you've been working with for years, if it's someone that you trust, that you can sit down and say, hey, these are the things, these are the risks that are associated with me operating my business. I'm looking at some cyber risk insurance. I'm looking for cyber insurance. What additional coverages do I need to keep my business safe? And then think about costs, right? If it's something that, if the cost is associated with getting the insurance does not meet the needs of your organization, maybe it's not the time to maybe get the insurance. Is also think about timing within your organization, what you're doing in the organization, and think about the future as well. Even if maybe you're not doing something right now, maybe if you get that larger contract or you get that larger customer. Maybe you need to get cyber insurance because maybe you're going to be doing things like processing credit cards. Maybe you're going to be handling more sensitive data. Maybe you're going to be doing numerous things that you're probably not doing right now. So think about those things as you're shopping around looking for the coverage that will be best suited for your organization. Next slide. So again, I think I talked about this, it's the cost benefit analysis. And we've done this in probably, if you've been in business for a while or if you're just getting started, one of the greatest exercises that you can do as a small business owner is thinking about costs versus benefits for your micro business. Typical premiums come between anywhere from $300 to $1,200. Can we afford to safeguard our business by spending $300 a year on this, or maybe $1,200, depending on what type of coverage, what type of business, what type of industry, what type of insurance that you select, what type of insurance company you select. I've seen people that use, Hartford, and maybe Hartford for their small business, when they came back with a quote after you filled out the application, came in anywhere from $300 to $500 to sometimes all the way up to $1,000 to $1,200. So think about that. I always like to get quotes, at least 3 quotes from 3 separate insurance agencies, or even working with a broker to get me 3 different quotes. And then I look at what will be covered under each of those policies, and think about how this will all come together with your budget. So thinking about the cost versus the benefits of you getting this type of insurance. Think about the average ransomware attack they're saying is anywhere between 10,000 and above. The actual legal notification fees, or I talked about think about when the folks that you've used in the past send you out a letter saying that your data has been breached. Think about how many, if you have to send that out to 1,000 people, to 2,000 people, how much that will cost you. So that can come anywhere between 5,000 and above. If you're thinking about legal costs and even notification fees. So think about that. What's the cost benefit analysis of that? Think about your return on that investment. It also should depend on your risk level plus your digital exposure. If I'm a smaller organization and I don't do a lot of work online, I'm not going to have any remote workers, I have a very small digital footprint, is it something that I want to invest in now? But if I have a projected projection for my business that over the next 6 months to the next year, I'm going to grow and I'm going to have like maybe a very massive growth. Is it something that I should invest in now, or should it something I should do in the first quarter, the second quarter, the fourth quarter? These are all things that you have to kind of weigh out if this is something or the right time for you to get cyber insurance for your business. Next slide. And then again, is it even right for you? I always say to do that self-assessment inventory on yourself as the owner, and then also do the risk assessment on your business as the owner, looking through a lens of your business to see, do we collect our store customer data? Do we use online payment systems? Do we depend on email or cloud services? One great question I always like to ask small business owner: would you survive a 2-week business shutdown? Would your business really be able to survive if something happened where you had to shut down for 2 weeks? If the answer is no, maybe you should definitely consider if cyber insurance is something that you will need for your business. Do you need to get something if your business is interrupted? They also have policies just dealing with business interruption. If you have a cyber insurance policy, see if that also covers if your business is interrupted. If you have a current insurance, see if there is any type of additional riders that talk about cyber insurance, and maybe you even have some coverage. Is the coverage that you have now was that enough that you will need to carry you if something does happen? Is it an additional cost? I would recommend, outside of doing a self-assessment as a small business owner, doing a risk assessment on your small business. If you do have coverage now, taking a look at your coverage, and then talking it through with a professional, that may be your insurance broker or someone that's a trusted advisor to you. And then also, I like to have a CEO, I like to call like a CEO, check-in. If I know another CEO that's in a very similar business to myself, I always check in with them to say, hey, Do you have cyber insurance? Do you have regular insurance? How much do you spend each year? Has it been something that you saw was beneficial for your small business? Talk to other small business owners as well to see if this is a tool that's worked for them, and definitely talk to someone that's been, that's had something happen in their small business and they were a victim of some sort, and it did the cyber insurance work for them. So those are the type of things you should definitely consider when you're thinking about, is it something that's right for you? Next slide. So steps to take before buying, right? I talked about conducting a cyber risk assessment. If you have some things in place for your infrastructure, if there's things that you may need to improve, like maybe your digital hygiene, your cyber hygiene practices. Do I have multi-factor authentication? Do I need multi-factor authentication? Do I have a very strong password policy? Do I even use passwords? Are we using other forms of biometrics in our infrastructure? Are we even there yet? Are we doing things like backing up our data? And if we are backing up our data, are we testing those backups? Are we doing it on a monthly basis? Are we doing it on a quarterly basis? Incremental backups? Are we storing them offsite if there's something that's need be? Are we limited access to people that have access to those backups? Am I using antivirus? Am I using malware? Do I update the antivirus on a regular basis? Do I update any of the updates that are from my infrastructure? Do I have a policy about how to handle all the different things in the event that there's a cyber instance from our organization? And then compare all the policies, read the fine print. Again, read the fine print, do your research. I don't recommend just going to one insurance broker to get information. I like to do the tell of three. Try to get two different quotes. And then you can also be very transparent with the trusted broker advisor and say, hey, these are the type of things that my business is using within our infrastructure. These are my customers that I'm trying to protect. In the next 3 to 6 months, I'm thinking that we're going to have, growth, and it may require me to have some additional things in place. What do you recommend? Do your homework, do your research, and then also read the reviews about maybe some of the insurance companies that you're looking at to see what their customers are saying about the support. Do they have a 1-800 number that you can call? Do you have to work through a broker if something happens? Like how can I get in contact with you in the event that something happens? Those are definitely things that you should think about before you even decide to buy. Next slide. Also, again, before you go out and try to look to see if you need some additional coverage, review your current business insurance policy. If there are coverage gaps related to cyber risk insurance, if there is, how does that relate to even where you're at now? And again, I'm always thinking about growth. In the small business owner, we're always thinking about growth, right? How will I be able to protect my business now and protect my business in the future? Contact your provider to ask about adding cyber risk insurance to your policy. Inquire about available discounts. Maybe there's a bundling deal. Maybe if you're using them for your regular general business insurance, if I bundled it with cyber coverage, is there additional discounts for me to use? Like, leverage your relationships that you already have in place. Clarify the claims process. This is very important. What is the claim process? Is it the same if I'm putting in a regular claim that something happens? What required things that I will need to file that claim to make sure you have those things readily available? If you have a provider that have some additional risk management tools, if you need to get them involved, will they be covered? Do they have additional coverage? Those are different great things to ask as well. So when you're thinking about buying, you understand as a consumer the things that you have at your disposal to make the most informed decision for your small business. Next slide. Again, review the premium costs, compare, what the potential risks are, understand the policy deductibles, how it will affect you if there are claims. Again, always say ask for those discounts. Make sure you have those strong cybersecurity policies as well. Determine if the premium is flexible based on your coverage limits and needs. Think about if you have insurance, these are the very similar things that you probably thought about when you were deciding to even get insurance for your business. It's the same process, but because you're dealing with a different specialized coverage. Make sure that you understand how you will be covered in the event that something happens, and what's the limitations on it. Are there flexibility? Are there discounts? Are there bundles that I can use? If not, should I go and get somewhere else where maybe they have more coverages for me as a small business owner? These are things to definitely keep in mind. Next slide. So final takeaways. We know that cyber threats are real. They're growing each and every day. Insurance isn't about substituting cybersecurity or reducing your risk. It's really a low-cost policy that will give you a peace of mind. But with that peace of mind, you need to be an informed consumer and think about the decision that you're making if you're deciding to get cyber insurance for your business, and make it based on your risk profile. Think about you as a small business owner now, where you're trying to take your company, what will be down the road. Think about the same thing if you're thinking about when you got your car insurance, if you have a home, your homeowner's insurance. It's going to be based on certain things. Think about, like, for myself, I just recently bought a new home in another state. And because it was, I'm surrounded by water. In my previous home, I didn't have to think about getting flood insurance. But because I'm near water and where the location of where I moved to, I had to also get additional flood insurance. Now, it wasn't something that was mandated by my mortgage company, but it was something that gave me a peace of mind, because I'm thinking, in the event that there is something happens, we having a lot of natural disasters lately. It's a lot of heavy rain, especially in the season. If there's a major flood or something, I want to make sure that I have that peace of mind. Now, the additional expense that I had to pay for it was a couple $100s. But that couple $100s gave me a peace of mind, in addition to the other insurance that I have that was mandatory for the mortgage. This was something that I did, and I did that based on my risk profile and making an informed decision based on, I'm looking at what's going on all around the world. I'm looking at, sometimes now with the seasons, you don't know if you're in fall, if you're in summer, you don't know if you're in spring anymore. So I thought about all those different things. So again, that's just an example of something I had to just walk through and think about if this was something that I wanted to invest in. So when you're thinking about something just like that for your business, it wasn't a substitute for anything else. It was just to give me that peace of mind. And it was really based on the risk that I thought would be involved with owning something that was near water now. So that's just an example. Next slide. So any questions? I know we covered a lot in a very small period of time, but I hope that this gave you just some information and food for thought to think about, as you are putting yourself back in the consumer seat to purchase something for your small business. What things should you consider? What things are important to you? And then also, doing that cost benefit analysis. Is it something that I should think about? Because it doesn't have to be something that you're thinking about right now. You may even say, okay, based on what you're saying to me, my cyber hygiene is probably at a 20%. I don't want to get cyber insurance until I get up to a 50%. Maybe I should put some of the things in place first before I start contacting brokers to get quotes. That's fine too. And you may even say, wow, I didn't even think about that. I'm starting to second quarter, I'm going to be taking on more healthcare patients. And now I'm going to be dealing with privacy information. Maybe in the past, I didn't need to think about that, but maybe it's something I should think about now. So I'm hoping that with the information that you received today, that you can do that self-assessment as the CEO, the cyber risk assessment as the CEO of the business, and thinking about all the risks that are associated with your small business from now and in the future, because the future can be here tomorrow.
True. We have one question that has popped in, and I'm not sure the wording, but this is how I'm going to interpret it. So if whoever entered this question, if I'm not getting it right, please go ahead and submit again. What companies do you recommend for the insurance?
Okay, so I I'm gonna slow walk the recommendations because I'm gonna start with 3 caveats. The most insurance companies have some form of cyber insurance that they can offer you. The real question is, it's really going to be based on the needs of your small business. And it's going to be based on the budget that you have set for your small business for things like insurance coverages. Now, I can say to you, I've heard some great things from Hartford. I've heard some people that use Geico. I've heard some people that use Allstate. I've heard some people that use different, I've even had a one small business owner, because she was a solo entrepreneur, she actually used a company called Blink, Blink, and she actually just got cyber insurance on herself because she didn't have any other employees. And when she did the cost benefit analysis assessment that we talked about, if she would have added it to her regular insurance, it would have cost her $300 more a year. Because she went with this cyber insurance for herself, it was only $12 a month. And so that was basically, it covered her in her personal and her professional capacity as well. But she looked at her risk and said, hey, I can spare another $12. I use that on Starbucks. This is something that I want to do, because she started seeing more patients and she started processing more healthcare data. And so she wanted to have that as an additional service offering, additional peace of mind, because she knew that she was expanding her service offering. And then we kind of talked it through, and she said, in fourth quarter, I'll be onboarding my 3 other nurse practitioners. And so, but then I will have enough resources to be able to get the additional insurance that's on my current policy. And then I'm going to go back and even talk to them about a bundling discount, because you're correct. If I'm going to be getting more than one type of coverage, then I'm going to see if this can be something that I can bundle in and maybe get that $300 down to maybe $200 down, right? So she made up in her mind that I don't want to spend more than this to be able to do this. And I know that in 6 months, when I have more revenue and more resources, this may be something better for me, but she wanted to at least get started. So that was her way of mitigating having some type of coverage, because it was just her right now. And she knows that she's expanding and she's moving quickly. And if in the event that something happens, that she will be covered. So I said all that to say is that every scenario is going to be different, but those are the type of scenarios you kind of got to walk yourself through. But there are great insurance companies out there. If you have a trusted advisor or a broker that you've been working with, have them give you some quotes, have them even, put together a presentation and present to you some options so that you can be an informed consumer about what you're purchasing when you're thinking about cyber insurance for your business.
We don't have any other questions at the moment. So if any of our attendees have a question, please go ahead and drop them into the Q&A box. Kiana, there's been a lot of great information. While we wait, because we have time, any extra words of wisdom, because you've given us a lot of words of wisdom already.
Yes, thank you, Sheila. So it's just, I always say, just go back to the basics. When you decided, that you wanted to take this wonderful journey of entrepreneurship, and you have invested your money, your time, your resources, and you want to protect those things, right? So just like you, depending on what type of industry you're in, maybe even making the decision to get any type of insurance was like a big decision to make. It's the same concept when you're thinking about introducing or adding something in addition to giving you that peace of mind. We pay for car insurance if you own a vehicle. If you own a home, you pay for homeowners insurance. If you're a renter, sometimes even now apartment complexes are even making it mandatory for you to have renters insurance. Why? Because the likelihood of something happening is very likely. And so I try not to live in the spooky cyber world, like, oh, the sky is falling. Technology is here to stay. I've seen people, utilize this insurance for very things that they know that is there, but never imagined that they would be the ones that fall, victim to it. And so with the evolution of technology, you're starting to see more people utilize AI. You're starting to see different threat actors out there. They're getting very sophisticated with the phishing and the smishing and the vishing attacks, right? And we'll be actually, just a shameless plug, we'll be going over that even more to identify as a small business owner on our next webinar. But the reason why we do these webinars is to keep you informed and to really give you the information that you need to be a well-informed small business owner, and also to give you some tools and just some different food for thought as you're thinking about how to protect your investments, how to protect your assets, and also protect your peace of mind.
Okay, we had a two-part question come in, so I'm going to start with the first question.
Okay.
Is the need for cyber insurance different for businesses that have a basic informational only website versus an e-commerce site platform?
Yes. So again, every small business is going to have different associated risks. So if you have a basic business, and let's say you are a flower shop, right? And maybe you own this very, mom and pop flower shop. You probably don't do a lot. You may process credit card payments if someone is coming in and purchasing flowers, right? You may have some foot traffic, but maybe now you're thinking about your more physical security. So maybe you went and installed a security system, right? That's going to be totally different than someone who has an online business that is doing more e-commerce, and you're processing credit cards, and you have different threat actors that can cause havoc in your business, because now you're exposing your business, your website. That is the way you make your money. That is the way the traffic is, is your customers have to be able to consume your products that that you are trying to present. And so someone shutting that page down is literally physically shutting your business down, right? So you're going to think about cyber insurance from a totally different perspective versus someone who has a brick and mortar, right? So definitely it's going to be different, but the impacts of your business being shut down is going to feel the same. So no one that's in business wants to be down or have any interruption to their business. I don't care if it's for 10 minutes, if it's for 10 days. Every minute, every second that there's an interruption to your business costs you something, right? So when we talk about doing that cost benefit analysis, it's not a one size fits all. Sometimes it's an apples to orange thing, but it's definitely, you have to think about, as the small business owner, this is my most important resource, is for my customers to have access to my e-commerce site. So I need to make sure that there are certain things in place. I need to make sure I have a secure site. I need to make sure that I have a way to be able to take payments in a secure fashion. I need to be able to process those payments, because the other part of that is now you also have a responsibility to the consumers that are using your website to purchase goods and services. So you don't want their information to be stolen, to be reused. You don't want that as well, because sometimes that can also not only take your business down from a operational standpoint, but then your reputation, because bad business travels fast, right? If someone says to you, oh, don't go to that website, they have no security. My credit cards were stolen from there, right? They had no security. It looked a little shifty, but because I really wanted those earrings, I took a chance, and this is what happened. Most people, most consumers today, they read the reviews. They do the Google searches, word of mouth, right? So those are different things that the flower shop owner that has a brick and mortar may never experience. But you, as an e-commerce web guy that have a web girl, have some sort of business that is customer facing, will have to think about when you're thinking about how to secure your business.
Okay, second part to that question. I think our attendee is referring to your business, Kiana. So for businesses operating as e-commerce retail businesses, does your company provide penetration testing? And if not, can you recommend a company?
So yes. So yes. So even I'm a small business owner, and I also do small business services that include everything from what we talked about, helping you put together a risk assessment, to helping you even in the event that something happening from incident response. But there are a plethora of small businesses out there. And again, there are ones, and just like what I would say to you, the rule of three, get you some quotes, read the reviews, talk to other people that have used their services, and see if that is a service that you will need for your small business, right? And it may not be, it may not be one provider may not be able to give you all the different things that you're looking for. So what I'm saying is that even in that, if you're looking for an outside provider to provide you with certain services for your small business, make sure that you do your research as well. So yes, we do offer those services, but I know a plethora of ones that do as well. And depending on your budget, because again, it all goes back to cost, benefit, and budget, right? We also want to make sure that you not only are a well-informed consumer, but that you are spending and you're investing. Because I feel like when you spend your money, if you don't feel like it's a true investment, then you feel like you're not getting, your return on that investment, if that makes sense.
Okay, we have another question. In the event that a third-party service provider we rely on experiences a data breach, how might our cyber insurance respond? And what factors would influence the extent of our coverage in such a situation?
So that's a great question. So even as you are thinking about getting cyber insurance, or if you already have cyber insurance, one of the things I always say, read the fine print. See if that also provides coverage to third parties outside of you. And if you are using a third party, one of the first questions that I will say to that third party person that's providing your service, do you have cyber insurance? Because if they have cyber insurance, maybe your coverage don't protect them, but maybe their coverage protects you and them, right? So again, even as you're thinking about partnerships and growth and anybody that you're doing business with, that's a question that you should ask. Even if I always say, like, think about it. If you are a parent and you are thinking about taking your child to a child care facility, you want to make sure that child care facility has the proper accreditation, the proper credentials, the insurance that you need. You want to make sure that they have qualified, employees there. All those things are important because you are dropping your child off there, right? Some people, even when you're thinking about your small business, think about it just like that. And you're not going to leave your child in the hands of someone that don't have all of those things in place. Think about that. The same thing if you're using a third party person, you're using a third party organization, have the conversation. Sometimes they're hard conversations, but you'll be surprised. Like, oh yeah, we do have that. And I always say, can I have a copy of that? Can I get a certificate of insurance from you to make sure that I can even verify that your coverage is active, that I can verify that your coverage is up to date? Because you'll be surprised. I mean, I've had so many, I can sit here for days and tell you some stories of even other partners that I've done work with in the past. And when I started asking for proper paperwork or credentials, then I started seeing, oh, well, we had coverage and then the coverage lapsed. No, I need you to get your coverage up to date so that we can, do business together, and that I can make sure that I'm protecting my infrastructure and your interests as well, right? Because we don't want to find ourselves in a legal situation. And the first thing they'll ask you is, did you do your due diligence? Did you make sure that who you were doing business with had the same things or the proper things in place for you to continue your business relationship?
Okay, so we have another one that's a two-part question. I'll read the whole question, and if you want me to go back, I'll break it down. Could you walk me through how breach response and incident handling typically work under a cyber liability policy, especially for a micro business like ours? Additionally, since we rely on 1099 contractors who may not carry their own insurance, what kind of coverage should we consider to protect ourselves in that situation?
Okay, so 3 things. When you are shopping for cyber insurance, you should also be very transparent with them to say, hey, not only do I have employees, I also use 1099 contractors. They may even come back and say, what type of contractors? And you can give that scenario. The contractors that I use, sometimes they're just, freelancers that don't necessarily have their own insurance, but I use them to do, let's say, some type of outsourcing services outside of what your business but to use it as a function within your business, right? And two, you're not using those 1099 employees like they're regular employees, because they're not, right? They are outside additional services and resources that you're using to leverage the operations of your small business. So totally fine. Walk them through that scenario. And then you can say, if there's an incident that happens, for whatever reasons, there's a data breach that happens to my 1099 resource. How does my insurance protect that, right? Because every coverage is not, again, there's not a one size fit all for any coverage. Just like with car insurance, there's not a one size fit all for coverage, right? You can get full coverage, you can get limited liability, you can get all different types of coverages. And depending on if you have a newer car, more newer cars are going to automatically say you have to have full coverage. Why? Because the price of replacement of that newer vehicle is going to be so expensive that they make it mandatory, right? Depending on what state you live in. Even if you move states, I just recently moved. They told me I had 30 days to move all of my vehicles and everything into the state, because the insurance, if I change the insurance on this date, it automatically activates a time clock. So again, those are the type of conversations, and we talked about doing that self-assessment, that you need to have with your broker, with the insurance company that you want to use for the cyber insurance, and then walk them through several scenarios to see how they will be able to cover you and what type of coverage will be best suited for your small business. Those are the type of conversations that you should have. I always say, this goes like you had that question all typed out. Put together a list of questions, different scenarios, and see who gives you the best answer. And then make a decision based on what coverage will be able to support you during those times when you are in the midst of an incident, because you don't want to wait until an incident happens to test out to see if your coverage is going to be effective. You want to do all of the work and do all the possible scenarios up front so that you are prepared, because that's also part of you preparing in the event that something happens, making sure your employees are prepared in the event that something happens, and they understand who to call. If there's someone to call, is there 1-800 number? Should I call the broker? What's the first steps? What type of things are they going to ask me for? What documents should I have on hand that they may need, access to immediately? If they have to take my computers, do I have a secondary computer? Do I have backups that I can utilize in the event that something goes down? These are all those type of scenarios that you should walk yourself through to make sure that you are properly prepared in the event that something happens.
We have another question that has dropped in. Let's see, we're a very small shop for people. Our e-commerce platform is hosted on AWS. Would it make sense to request website monitoring services from AWS?
So because you're a four-person shop and you're using AWS for some services, AWS they do have a plethora of different features that you can turn on that can help you strengthen your cyber defenses. If it's a feature that you feel that will be able to give you the level of protection, I always say that peace of mind, that warm and fuzzy that you will need. And it's, again, that cost benefit analysis. If the cost to be able to implement that particular feature for your site will give you the additional peace of mind, right? If I don't do it, how much will it cost me? If I do it, how much will it cost me? Those are the different conversations that you should be having, or even talk with your team members. You have a team of 4, that may be something to say, hey, I'm thinking about implementing this new feature. It's going to give us, right now, let's say we have, I always use the analogy of a door. This feature will give me an additional lock on my door. Would you think that that's something that we need, because now the foot traffic or something is happening more, that we are having more people visit our site that we need right now? And if the answer is yes, I've noticed that, right now we have this level of security. If we add this feature, this will give us more security. Those are the real conversations that you should be having with yourself, with that self-assessment, that cost benefit analysis, and that cyber risk assessment to see if that feature will be something that will be best suited for your organization. But I'm always always think about, if I do something, what will I be gaining with me implementing this? What would I be losing if I don't? That's really the real question. So I think that and then also again, I'll go back to reading the reviews, because even with some of the service providers that we use, their job, sometimes I'm in the IT profession as well, and I love all of my providers, all my managed service providers. I love them all. They're great, but they also are in a business as well. So they're going to always be trying to get you to buy additional features and services, find out if it's something that you need or something maybe you can do in a, maybe a couple of quarters down, or maybe it's something that you can utilize, but maybe you don't need an enterprise license. Maybe you just need, to pay for the basic. Maybe you can pay for the intermediate. So those are the type of things that you should think about and consider before you just say, yes, this is something that I need, but how much of it do I need? How much will it cost me? What will I be gaining? What will be my return on this investment? Because any money spent as a small business owner should be an investment. It should be an investment. And you want a return on your investment.
Okay, so we have one last question here because I think we are getting up close on time. Let's see. We use QuickBooks and Square to process payments, so we never actually see our store or customer's credit card information.
Okay.
How might that affect our cyber insurance, especially in terms of premiums or liability, if something goes wrong at the payment processor side? Furthermore, would the responsibility be more on us or on the payment processor? How do we manage this breach, I cannot talk today, over to our customers, and what would be our responsibility?
Great question. So I'm going to give you the short answer. The short answer is going to be, because they're your customer, the customer is not going to call QuickBooks if something happens. They're going to call you first. And so what I would say is, whatever additional resources that you're using in your business as a small business owner, take the time to read the terms and conditions of the people that are providing you the service. Find out about the privacy policy of said people that are providing you that service. I also would put together some form of, I would also, for my customers, I would put together some form of document that will state how I will protect their information in the event that there is a breach or in the event that something happens. If you think about it, I know over the last couple of years, and I'll use your doctor office as a great example, because there have been a lot of different breaches, and it hasn't necessarily been on the doctor's offices itself. It could be some of the payment processes that they're using. It could be some of the ways that they're storing their files. And you'll get this great notice that says, hey, there was a breach, but we're going to give you this credit monitoring, for the next 6 months, for the next years. But then they also, now when you come into the office, they help you sign some form that says, these are our privacy policies. This is how your information is protected. Those are additional things that they were probably mandated to put into place to be able to be transparent with their customers on what their responsibility is as the one that's collecting the information, their responsibility for them for storing the data, and their promise to you. To think about it, that's their promise to you. So when you're thinking about the cyber insurance, could give you as a small business owner that additional peace of mind in the event that the services that you're using within your organization do not provide you with that extra level of protection. So again, even when you're purchasing, make sure that you understand how they're liable, where their liability ends, and where you're a start. But I would just say, and I always put myself in the seat as the customer. If I'm the customer and I walk into the store and I swipe my credit card and find out later on that I was a victim of identity theft, and the last place that I swiped that credit card was at your spot, I'm not calling the payment processor, I'm calling you. So, and it's your responsibility to figure out why that happened to me, right? Then there's going to be an investigation on to see what happened. Was it someone that maybe put something on the machine? Was the machine not protected? Was there an update to the machine that wasn't provided, and now they left a potential risk this big that could have been, you know, mitigated with something like a simple software update. All of those different things are going to come out the investigation. So as a small business owner, I cannot stress this enough. Any type of insurance, any service provider that you're using, you cannot delegate responsibility. You are ultimately responsible. So all you can do as a small business owner is do your due diligence. So I hope I didn't get on my soapbox too much, but I just wanted to just kind of drive that home.
No, that was a very good point. Okay, I'm going to put out a last call for questions. We're about at the end of our time. And a reminder, you are going to receive a recording of this and the slides, so you'll have all this great information.
Yes. So thank you guys. You guys have been a great audience, great questions. This is why we do what we do, because we want to have these forums, to have these conversations, these tough conversations, so that we can go back and look at our organizations and even look at ourselves as the CEO, as the leader, on things that we can do to support our businesses, to strengthen them so that we can scale and we can have that peace of mind that we're doing the best for our customers. We're doing the best for the people that believe in us and trust us to provide them with these services, these goods. And, you know, even as a small business owner, is irregardless of the size and your growth, you know, you want to make sure that you are protecting your investments, protecting your reputation, protecting the things that are important to you and to your customers. And this is just one of those peace of mind, you know, things that you can do to make sure that you're moving that needle ahead for your small business.
Kiana, thank you so much. This was really good. I want to thank everyone who joined us today as well. And as a reminder, as I just said, you will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. This webinar and other SBD resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we hope to see you next month for our next cybersecurity webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.